Hello and welcome to Unicycle.com videos. Today we're going to go through how to build a wheel. It's a video we've wanted to do for ages. We've got the help file in our FAQ. We've got information everywhere, but we've never done a video. So it's one of our longer ones, one of the more technical ones in some respect. But let's go through. We'll go through it slowly and we'll show you how to build a unicycle wheel. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the components. So we'll start off, let's grab a rim. So this is a Dominator 2 rim. They're one of the nicest rims out there to build. Rims vary. This is a really nice rim, easy to build. So a couple of things with it. So all the spoke holes are in the center. That makes it easier. They're eyeletted. That makes it easier. It's a very rigid rim, so when it comes to actually truing it, you can sort of make mistakes and it's tolerant of it. So that's really good. This is a 36 hole Nipples 2 rim. That is the more common unicycle size. So you get 32, 36 and 48 spoke rims for unicycles. By way and far the most common 36. Bicycles go to 32, more common. So it's kind of, we've digressed. Used to be everyone used to be 36, but bikes have gone to 32. That does mean that if you're building a wheel and you pick up a bike rim, you need to be very careful. You get 36 hole. So there's a rim, pretty straightforward. Next thing is, of course, you've got the hub. So that's a Unicycle Hub. So the flanges, which are these parts here, they have got 18 holes on each, two 18s, 36 of course, to match up with the rim. Now there's something I will show you on this. So, and this might make total sense to you and you go, well yeah, of course, but it's quite important when it comes to wheel building. Now the spoke holes on the flanges are not opposite to each other. So I will do a zoom in on this and I will show you. So I've dropped that spoke in through one flange and you can see it sits in the center of the other flange. So it's one hole, one hole, one hole, one hole, one hole, one hole. Okay, so they're alternate. It's quite important to remember that when you're building the wheel. The other thing to say is the hub has the name on it, and believe it or not, that's actually quite useful and important when it comes to building wheels. Okay, next thing to talk about is spokes. So we'll grab a spoke here. So the spokes are 14 gauge for most unicycles. There are some, the old KHs, with 13 gauge, and there are, in fact, I think there was even some 12 gauge. Gauges is wire gauge, standard wire gauge, SWG, and the numbers go backwards. So 14 is a thinner than a 13 is thinner than a 12. Yeah, so 12 is quite thick. It's actually 12 is what we use on the penny farthings. They're big chunky things. So on a spoke, you have a J bend. Now it's a piece at the end here, and you can see the little knobble on the end. It sticks up by about 3 millimeters. On the other end, you've got your threaded section. Threaded sections they're 11 millimeters long. They're always 11 millimeters long. We can cut longer, but it's actually quite difficult, and generally speaking, it's not a good thing to do. So they're 11 millimeters long. Now, when you measure a spoke, you can see the end here. You don't measure from here. You measure from this end to the inside of that bend. See that? Not the end here, from the inside. Okay? So let me put that down. Good. Okay. And the next thing is nipples. Now nipples are the thing that spokes run into. So when you buy spokes, they will always be supplied with nipples. I don't think there's any exception where they're not. So here is the nipple that was supplied with these spokes. it's tiny, it's 12 millimeters long. That is not appropriate to build these double wall rims with. We always build with a 16mm one. They're just a bit bigger. We use the 12s on other things. Now, the thing that's worth mentioning about this is these spokes, the 12 and the 16, actually have the same amount of thread in them, and that's quite important. So all this 16mm is, it's got 4mm of extra space or extension to put your spoke key on. The other thing worth showing you is it's on the back of the nipple. You'll see a slot in the nipple here. This slot is for a screwdriver. It goes right across the middle of the threads, and the bottom of that screwdriver slot is ideally where the spoke will end up when you've finished building this wheel. That's the ideal. I'm not saying it will be, but that's where you're aiming for. So there you go. So there we've got the three main components there for building the wheel. Now let's look at tools. Okay, what do you need to build the unicycle wheel? In fact, any wheel. So the obvious thing is you need a spoke key. This is my favourite spoke key. Everyone gets one they like. It's set up as a 14 gauge spoke key. They do vary, and I can't give you the specification of which. There is a difference between the European 14 gauge and the Taiwanese 14 gauge. We tend to use the Taiwanese spokes, so it's the smaller of the two sizes. I will try and put that in the description to give you a guide to which one it is, but I can't pull that out of my memory straight away. The next thing we need is, and I'm going to show you this. This is a hold up for the nipples. Thank you, Josh from the USA, for sending me this as a present. This actually puts all the nipples in a box, all lined up, so they're ready to pick up. It also comes with a little tool. So when you push that in, it comes up with the nipple on the end. And you have a little bearing on the top, so you can plonk it in the rim and turn it. Beautiful. It does make it considerably easier. But as an amateur builder, you've probably not got this. You know, that's not really possible. So there's a couple of things you can do. Let me put this down. So you can take a spoke, spare spoke. You can just wind it into the nipple in the back to feed it through the rim. That's one alternative. Another alternative is to make your own little stick, what we want to call it. So this is cut off the end of a spoke. We've got lots of these. And screw a nipple on the end, file the end so it's a nice file surface, and you've got yourself a little tool for picking up spokes. So really that's all you need. A flat-bladed flat-bladed screwdriver is useful, just for setting the tensions up, but those are the tools. Now let me just show you our jig. So our jig, let me take that off, don't want to go dropping that. Our jig is very simple. So it's a unicycle specific jig, wheel building jig, and you probably realise what it is. It's a seat post screwed onto a piece of wood and a bit of a frame cut off and a clamp put on it. Now the advantage of this is I take my frame, plonk it on. I then have something I can put the wheel in or the hub. It also has another advantage, and we'll come to that later on, but that's the wheel building jig. And one that you can make at home quite easily, and we have a professional jig as well. We prefer that. So that's everything there. So the next thing is we'll go on to actually starting to build the wheel. Okay, I did say on with the wheel building, not quite. I've trusted that you have got the right spoke lengths. I need to explain that, don't I? So let me grab the hub again. So we have a brake flange, we have two flanges, and the middle of the wheel where the rim's going to be is not in the middle between the two flanges. It's actually in the middle of the two bearings, which means you have a bigger distance on one side to the rim and a smaller distance on the other. The effect of this is that you have longer spokes on the side on the flange which is furthest from the middle, and shorter spokes on the other side. Now, I suppose you see, how do I know this? Well, simple, use our spoke calculator. Nick's done a brilliant video on how to use a spoke calculator, so we'll put it in the description below on where the spoke calculator is. So for every hub that's got a brake on it, there'll be two hubs. We've got a very simple spoke calculator. It actually doesn't do offset flanges. We just give you the data so it works. So for this one, we have, now I'm going to have to look at it, 253 millimeter spokes for this side. It'll be about 2 millimeters difference, and 256 on this side. So actually 3 millimeters different spokes on these two. Don't get mixed up. I've got two boxes here. I'll make sure they're separate, and I will take them from the right box. What I quite often do is I will actually put them on separate sides of me. I'm not working where I normally work here, so I've only got a table next to me, so I will make sure I do pick the right ones as I go. So that's a spokes bit of it. So I know I've got the right spokes because I've looked on the spoke calculator. I've gone and ordered the right ones. They're sitting next to me. Now let's do the wheel building. So pick up a hub. I've mentioned the name is really important on the hub. So you want it so that the name of the hub, you can read it from where you are. You might think I'm being pedantic here, but bear with me. That's really important for multiple reasons, but they might not make sense at the moment. Just trust me on this. So the name is upright and I can read it. The flange to the right hand side, which is the one I'm going to work with first, and it's going to be our first spoke. Very important. But where do I put the spoke? Well, you put it in 80 to 85 degrees forward from you. So almost 90 degrees, but not quite. So I did say that's going to be the longest spoke, and I'm not going to get the wrong one. So I'm going to take my spoke and I'm going to put it from the outside to the inside, and I've put my first spoke in. And you can see from the position, I'll just turn it around so you can see it. Yeah, put it back up again, it's in front of me. Okay, there's my first spoke in the rim, in the hub. So we're ready now. We're going to put the first spoke into the rim. So we've got our rim, we've got to put the first spoke in. So spoke number one, yeah. There's our valve hole. Can you see that? Where is it? Yes, I was pointing at the right thing. So there's our valve hole, yeah. So our first hole, yeah. First spoke goes through the first hole. That's too easy. No, the first spoke goes in the second hole. Now, it will make sense in the end, and I will demonstrate this of where we're going to. But this is one of the common things that goes wrong. people put the first spoke in the first hole. Nope, first spoke goes in the second hole. Now, take our number 2 spoke. Number 2 spoke, we're going to miss a hole in the bottom, push it in from the outside. So we're still on the same side, we're still on the non-flange side, and we're using the longer spokes. Now, which hole do we put it in? Yeah. And what we're going to do, we're going to miss 3 holes. So it goes in the 4th hole. Just going to screw it on. We're not putting these on very far. We're just screwing on a couple of threads so they don't fall off. So we've got that in. So I'll turn it that way so you can see. So we have, there's my valve hole. Valve hole, empty spoke hole, spoke hole with a spoke, 1, 2, 3, next spoke hole. Now, I'll see if I can explain this, the reasoning, why it's always 4. It is always 4. So whether you're building a BMX wheel with 48 spokes, or whether you're building a road bike wheel with 32 spokes, or with 20 spokes, or a penny farthing with 60 holes, doesn't matter. It's always miss 3 holes. Yeah? So it's every 4th one. And the reason is we've missed 1 hole in the bottom. So the spokes go this side, this side, this side, this side, this side. So the 2 spoke holes here are going to be on this side, and the one in the middle is for that hole that's missing at the bottom. And we're going to cross the spokes. So it doesn't go to here, it goes to somewhere else. We'll come to that. So anyway, we've done the first 2 spokes. That's quite important. Do it slowly, get it right. Okay? So we are now going to put in the next 7 spokes. We're going to miss 3 holes each time, spoke, 3 holes, etc. as we go around. Making sure we pick the right spokes. I tend to do 2 at a time. It tends to be easier. I'm a bit lazy. Sometimes I do 3 if I'm building wheels fast. So cross 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we have the first 9 spokes in. Yeah? Nice and straightforward. Every other hole has been used on that flange. Everything comes in from the outside, and it should look like this. So I'm going to pause here and emphasize that this is the point where in the wheel build where everyone goes wrong. This is the most common mistake, which is the first spoke on this side. So let me kind of get where we are. So there's our valve, there's our first spoke hole, empty. There's our second one, which has our first spoke in. I have the hub, so I can read the name on it. Yeah, very important. So we have got everything set up ready. So the question is, which hole do I use on the flange to put it into the first hole, which is the one we're aiming for, in the rim? So obviously this is 1 hole behind. We are going to try and pick out 1 hole behind it on this flange. Now we went through and said it's alternate, the alternate flange. So to show this, I'm just going to grab a silver spoke. It shows up better. I'm sorry I'm building a black wheel with a black hub and a black spokes. It does make things a little bit harder. So if I push this spoke through, let me get it right. So I just got it wrong. So I want to go through the one which is behind. Hopefully you can see the detail shot there. So there we go. Will come out, and I'll now use the real spoke. This is really hard doing this for you. I would normally sit at my desk and do this. Is a lot easier. So I'm actually going to do it wrong again. No. Let's do it correct. So Oops, I just dropped a nipple out, but it doesn't matter. I'll pick that up later on. The first, yeah, there it goes. So the first spoke goes in. Yep. And I have gone in one in front of the valve, which is one behind the spoke I put in first. So there we go. Let me just put that spoke back in. As I say, I just haven't twiddled it on enough. There we go. So the first spoke's in. So the rule is the same as on this side. We do every other hole on the flange, and we miss 3 and put the spoke in. It's all formulaic. So we do that, and I now go around the rest of the rim, putting in and tightening up all the nipples. Okay, so there you have it. So that's where we're up to so far. All the spokes are in pairs, and there's 2 holes between every pair that we've put up. Okay, so you'll see I've just grabbed the wheel here. It's the Equinox wheel. So I need to talk about crossing. It's quite an important term when it comes to building wheels, and it needs some explanation, and now's the time to do it. So I've grabbed a wheel. So crossing is to do with the number of spokes that a spoke going in the other direction goes over or under. If I pick a spoke, let's pick this spoke here. Yeah, it goes over this spoke, under this spoke. Yeah. If I pick the next one around. So this one here, it goes under this one, over this one, over this one. In this case, this wheel is built as 3-cross. Now, there's kind of rules or common crossings for number of spokes. So if you've got a 36 spoke wheel, it's almost certainly it's going to be a 3-cross. There are some exceptions. There are some wheels that are made as 4-cross at 36 hole, and very few, to be honest. And if you have a road bike, it might be 2-cross. But as a general rule, if it's 36 hole, it's 3-cross. And it goes for most 32s as well. So if you're building a 32 Unicycle Hub, it'll be 3-cross. If you're building a 48 spoke wheel, it's going to be 4-cross. Yeah? And as it happened, the spoke angles are identical between 4-cross and a 36 as 4-cross on a 48 spoke wheel as 3-cross on a 36. They're almost identical. And that gives you some clue in that this is a very strong format. If you look at penny farthing wheels, where they have considerably more spokes, they have considerably more crossings. So they might have 5 or 6 crosses, but that's another story altogether. So to see what I've just shown you is actually, I think, probably quite difficult to show on the video. So I will put up a photograph of the crossings. Let's see if this helps explain it. Okay, there you go. I'll put this down and we'll get on with building the wheel. So we're now ready to put in our first spoke from the inside to the outside with the crossing. Yeah. So here's our wheel. I am going to rotate the wheel forwards, away from me. So I can still read the name, and I have rotated the hub away from me. I take my spoke. Now I'm picking one of the shorter ones because I'm going to go onto the brake side. So pick any hole, doesn't matter. If there's a free hole, throw a spoke through. Now, take my spoke, and it is going to go in the opposite direction to the spokes I've just done. So I'm going in the opposite direction, yeah? And I'm going to go over 1, 2, and on the third one, I'm going to go underneath it, yeah? Now, which hole do I put it in? So that's from the brake side, that's from the non-brake side. Of course, it's this hole here. And the quick way to work out where it is, that hole and that hole that we've got spokes in, pick the one in the middle, yeah? So I'm going to plug it through the hole, and I've already primed my spoke on it with this little dibby thing, through there, tighten it up. Okay, first one done. I'm going to do one on the other side straight away. I tend to do this because it will hold the hub in level. So I've just taken one of the longer spokes, so it's the other side. I'm going to throw one in. Doesn't matter where, as I say, but I've put it in close to where the other is, and I'm putting it in place. There we go. 2 spokes in. The first 2 spokes in the other direction have been placed in. Okay, I've got one other thing to show you before I kind of do the magic bit and speed it all up. So I'm going to throw in another spoke, and again, pick the hole next to the one you've just put in. You can pick any at this stage, but better to pick next to it, and you'll just get a mess if you don't. Just trust me on that one. So let me show you what happens. So we have here, you've got 1 spoke, 2 spoke, over, and we've got to go underneath this one. It can't do it. It's actually too big to go under. If you pull the spoke in the middle, you can put a very gentle bend on it, and it'll go underneath. Yeah? I'll do that again. Yep. So just put a little gentle bend on the spoke, and you slip it underneath, and it's ready to go. Yeah? Okay, let's go on and do the building. Okay, look, it's laced. So there's our wheel uninitially laced up. Okay, I'll lay it down and take a photo of it so you can actually look at it. So let's I'll do that next, and I'll post it up next on the video, and then the next stage is going to be tensioning. So okay, I've moved things around a bit, as you can see. I've brought in the jig we showed you earlier on. I've plunked the frame on, I've plunked the wheel in. As you can see, I mean, the spokes are totally loose here. I mean, there's no tension in these. So the rim's all over the place. Of course, we have to tighten the spokes. So what we're going to do next is what's called a mechanical build. So you need to get all the spokes to be the same length. To do that, there's various methods. So I will explain them. One method to do, and the most common method to do, is to tighten the spokes until the nipple is at the end of the thread. And do it with all of them, so they're all at that stage. And then you know that the wheel is mechanically built to a length. It's still going to be floppy, I assure you, but they're all going to be the same length. Then you can work from there. So I'm actually going to move to my desk because I think it's easier to film on there, and I'm going to show you how you do that. So there's a few different techniques. So let's just move into the office. I'm going to film a spoke and actually show you to do this. Okay, so I've got a dummy spoke here, and I've got a nipple on the end. It's actually one that we've rolled, so it's actually got a nice silver area you can see. So what we're aiming to do is to get the spoke and the nipple to look like this, so that I've just covered up the whole of the thread. That's what we're aiming for. Now there's different methods to do that. So let's wind it back again. So I could just take my spoke key and I could tighten it using the spoke key. So that's one method, yeah? Another method, I mean, I've already explained, you've got a slot in the end and I could just tighten it using that, yeah? There is another way, which is if you've got a nice little dibber like I've got here, we place it in the end and we just tighten it. Now, as you can see, I've just tightened it a fair bit further and it stopped. Actually, it hasn't yet. There it is. It's just stopped. It's actually pushed this out. That gives us a consistent spoke length without having to look at where the thread is. So you can do either method, but most people wouldn't have one of these tools. So you're going to end up using your spoke key or your screwdriver to get to that point. Okay, let's get back to the wheel building. Okay, back at the wheel. Okay, so I'm going to start tightening. I'm going to use a dibber. It doesn't make any difference really. We're just going to do the mechanical build. You don't have to, but I always start at the valve. It's easier to know where you're up to and you don't miss any out then. So sometimes you don't know where you start, don't know where you end. So I'm going to get on and do this, and I'll speed it up a bit for you. Okay, so I've been all the way around and spokes are still soggy, but there's one thing to do before I go on to the next stage, which is do the same thing again. Go, I'm not kidding, go round the wheel again. It's worth it. This is really worth it. Go round the wheel again, checking that the thread is covered on every single one. I'm going to go through the wheel again and I'm going to check they're all in the right place before the next stage. Okay, I've just done that. Didn't bother with doing the magic bit and showing boringly going around. Anyway, so next stage. Okay, take a spoke key. We're going to tighten up the spokes starting at the valve. We're going to tighten up the spokes a set number of turns. So slip your spoke key in and I'm going to turn 1, 2, yeah, onto the next one. 1, 2, next one, and I'm going to keep on going. Okay, so it's getting there. It's getting there. Now, that process needs repeating again and again. What you get tempted to do, certainly at the beginning, when you start building wheels, is go, oh, well, I'll do 10 turns. Well, 10 turns is oddly quite a lot to count, keep in your memory, keep turning. My spoke key has writing on one side and a size on the other, which I said I couldn't remember last time. 3.4 it says. So this actually helps me to see when I've done one full turn. Try and keep to 2 or 3 turns at a time. Always start at the valve, go around, check them. You will find by feel that some of them are actually getting tighter to the point where they're actually already tight, if you know what I mean. And you can use your judgment. Obviously, I've been doing this long enough. I start to use judgment at this stage. Mechanical build, it's a good idea just to keep on going until, if you don't have the experience, just do it totally mechanically. If it ends up being 8 turns to tighten the wheel so that it is tight, it's 8 turns, yeah? And then go on to the next stage, okay? Okay, as you can see, I've moved things around a little bit, so we've got the wheel in the jig. I've been around 3 times now, so I have got these all to be about the same tightness. It's more or less where you want to be. there's lots of, you'll read about how tight the spokes need to be. Most of the time, it's all about, does it feel right? You can listen to them to see if they all sound the same, you know, or you can just feel them. I'm a feel person, tone deaf or something, I don't know, but I prefer that. But also, I've been doing this long enough, I look at a spoke, and by the way it actually, I don't know, I just seem to know that needs tightening. You can do it by the tension you feel on the spoke key, but we are looking to get them all about the same. So I want you to go around the wheel and check out any that are really slack or really tight. Don't worry about whether the wheel's in the center or not. At the moment, if you have done your mechanical build correct, it's going to be true anyway. So all you're doing now is finding if you've missed any. So if you've missed a spoke as you went around, it'll be loose. If it's really tight, you're more than likely you've done that spoke twice. So that's all we're looking for now. So that's the next stage. So I will get on and do that. In fact, truthfully, I've already done it as I'm sitting here. I actually have them all pretty much the same tension. And they are pretty well where I want them to be for being tensioned. So if a wheel came to me like that, I'd be very happy actually. That's quite a tight wheel. Okay, next we are going to true the wheel. Now, as you see, I've put it in the jig. Let me turn the jig towards you, and you can see the seat post is actually sitting inside the rim. So we're going to true against the seat post, not against the frame. The reason for that is, when you ride a unicycle, it is critical that your wheel is in line with the seat tube. This jig, unlike any other that I know about, guarantees that. There's nothing fancy about this. This is stupidly simple, but it works. So we are going to, it's a little bit low for me, but I can bend down and see. But I'm going to true it against this. Now, how do you true? I suppose that's the next question. I haven't really explained that. So you've got spokes on both sides of this wheel. If the wheel is over to one side, so let's say it's too close on this side, if I tighten the spokes on the other side, I will pull it back to the center. Or if I loosen the spokes on the side that it's tight to, so these two, it will move back to the center. Yeah? And you're still going to work through, you still want to try and get all your spokes the same tension. So you're going to make a decision. When you see the rim pushed over to one side, am I going to loosen the tight spokes, or am I going to tighten the loose spokes? Yeah? And as I say, I am going to true against the seat post because it's a unicycle. This is so important for unicycles, less so for bikes. So I will get on and do that now. Okay, so I've now got the wheel trued. It's in the jig. You can see if I spin it, it's in line with the seat post. But it's not finished yet. There is a little trick that needs to be done to finish things off, which is stress relieving the spokes. So if I ride this wheel now, it will creak. It'll make an absolute racket. So there's several ways to stress relieve spokes, and I will show you a couple of them. So if you grab the parallel spokes consecutively, and squeeze them together. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear that. It's kind of creaking a little bit. Yeah, making a bit of noise. So that will actually stop it from creaking when you ride it. You can do that if you ever get a unicycle and it's making noises while you're riding. That's one of the first things you need to check out. Is it that the spokes, the wheel has been built and never stress relieved? So that's one way. The other way, I'm going to have to move the camera and I'm going to show you something which you're going to go, Roger, what are you doing? But it is our standard way of stress relieving a wheel. So just trust me on this one. Look at this technique. Okay guys, as you see, I'm in the office. So here's an example how to stress relieve the UDC way. So step on the wheel and bounce on your heels. So that's all we do. And if I hadn't already done this the other way, you would hear me creaking. But I'm just walking around the rim, and there we go, stress relieving the rim. Okay, there we go. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've now got the confidence to go and build your own wheel. It isn't a hard process. It takes most people the first time, will probably take you 3-4 hours. But it's worth doing, and having this knowledge, it's great when you're on the trail. You have the confidence to repair the buckle wheel and you had a bad fall or things like that. Certainly worth learning. It's a great thing to learn. And as I say, I hope you're given a bit of confidence there to build your own wheel. So thank you very much for watching. Please do like the channel, like the video, etc. Do all the YouTube stuff. Comments, I keep on saying, we love your comments. Do make comments and we'll try and respond to them all. Thank you very much for watching.